Um, he has a calling on your life, is what I'm trying to say. And there's the difference between a purpose and a calling. The purpose, the purpose, for which you were created um, is for God, to have a relationship with God. But God, when that happens, God has a calling for you, and that calling is an individual, unique, specific calling, um, specifically custom made for you. You, Mackenzie, you as a person, you. I mean, you are made for a specific reason. Why? I have no clue. That's between you and God. I know why I'm here. Aside from, God, I know, how I'm supposed to honor that. We're all here for God, but, we all each have an individual calling. How are we going to honor that? So each of us has a unique individual calling, so to speak. Some bigger than others, but it doesn't matter about the amount of it, because in the eyes of God, it doesn't matter if, what the calling is. You're contributing to his kingdom, to heaven. And that's true. I mean, it might sound like a bunch of hocus pocus and a bunch of, a bunch of, you know, whatever to most people, and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I don't, I'm not even mad at that. But that stuff is true, you know. Um, and the reason I say it's true is because when I came into a relationship with God, um, let's just say I had a lot of supernatural stuff happen, and um, I had a lot of answered prayers, and God revealed some things to me, and it wasn't coincidence. It was far beyond coincidence. Coincidence is something that happens once or twice, and oh, that's ironic. And personally, do I believe in coincidence? I tend to believe sometimes things just happen. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe coincidence is, there's no such thing as coincidence. Maybe, I mean, I'm completely open minded to coincidence. I don't really pay too much attention to it. But when when I did get answers to my prayers, I always prayed for confirmation. God, is this coming from you? And sure enough, I would get it as clear as day in the most personal way. Excuse me, like there. I was praying to God, and I got specific answers. That was not coincidence, Mackenzie. There's a God up there, and He has a purpose. Well, your purpose is, to have a relationship with Him. But you have a unique calling. Everyone does. When you get up in the morning and you walk into your school, if I don't know if you're on summer vacation yet, I don't know, whatever. I mean, it's the 16th of June. I would assume, based on when I got out of school, possibly. I don't really remember. But nonetheless, you wake up tomorrow and you see somebody on the street or whatever, no matter who they are, that person has the same purpose as me and you and everyone else. They were put here to have a relationship with God. But that person has a calling. You serve a purpose on this planet. You are loved beyond your wildest imagination by a God, the same God that answers my prayers. And He has a unique calling for you. He has a unique calling for everyone. So, this might sound like, well, that's just what he believes. How does he know? Because I've had answered prayers. And I know what it's like to have a heart change and all that stuff. I mean, again, I didn't know how to handle it, so I kind of just worked against the grain. And like I said, God doesn't force people to change. I didn't know. I kind of worked against it. But nonetheless, I mean, in person, if you're more, I mean, if you are interested in person, like when I see you face to face, I can explain that, in more in-depth detail. But when it comes to purpose, I want to try to stick to the topic. I don't really want to veer off tonight. I mean, if possible, but when it comes to purpose and calling, everyone has a specific calling, and you do. Whether you realize it or not, you serve a calling. I told you what your purpose is. I could tell you that. I don't have to be God to tell you that. But your calling, I have no clue what that is. Only God does. And God came out and told me as plain as day what my calling is. I know how I'm supposed to honor my relationship with him. So, but sometimes God doesn't come straight out and tell people, you know. I mean, he will tell people. I mean, of course he will, but God has his own way of doing things with certain people. With me, he came straight out and told me right away, like, man, look, this is, what you. I mean, he obviously didn't do it in a way that a human being would do it, like he's, but when God speaks to you, I can't explain it. It's just different. It happens different ways in different scenarios. You just kind of, man, I can't explain it if I tried. We're talking about God. We're talking about God. But trust me, I know my calling. I'm well aware of it. So that is your purpose. That is the reason why you wake up every day, is to have a relationship with the real God, not some religious God, not some watered down whatever, like run around and make me happy, not some religious God. No, it's not about religion. There's a God up there, alive God that's alive and well. He's more alive than you'll ever be, than I'll ever be, than any one of us will ever be. He's alive. He is life. That's where life comes from. He's alive and well. So you do serve a calling. Don't you ever forget that. You serve. I mean, you never ever have to wake up at any point in time or any day and just feel like no one loves you, because I love you, but God loves you more than I'll ever love you or anyone else will ever love you. God loves you, and you serve a purpose, and that purpose is to have a relationship with him. But you also have an individual calling on your life. You do. See, before I knew my calling, I just thought that, oh, calling, okay, whatever. I mean, I've heard other people say it, but I never was able to really personalize it myself. I was never, I knew I served a specific calling or whatever, but I just didn't know what it was, because I just didn't know. I didn't know why I was here versus what I was supposed to do about that, which is a calling. I'm here for God. Okay, how am I supposed to honor that, though? That's called a calling. And a calling is another reason why you're here. A calling and a purpose are so, like, closely related. Like, you can't have one really without the other. If there's a purpose, okay, well, how are you supposed to honor your purpose, though? And I'm saying when it comes to God, you know? So I don't really think I have to break it down much more than that. But I mean, I'm not trying to beat anything into your head by repeating this stuff over and over and over again. But I know what it's like to, you know, feel like, I'm not saying this is the way you feel. I'm saying everybody feels like this at some point in time. You ever just, why am I here? What is the real purpose of life? There has to be more to this. Monday through Friday, going to work. And then you get out of work, you get paid, cool, and then what? You hang out with the same people, do the same stuff. Wah, wah, wah. It just gets boring after a while. It's more than that. Life is bigger than me, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than what this world has to offer. The world's a beautiful place. The world's a beautiful place. Going to work is good. That's what you should do. But there's more to it than that. It's not just going to work for 20, 30 years and then moving to Florida, swinging a golf club, ending up in a nursing home if you're lucky, and then you die. That's not what it is. There's more to it than that. That's why I say this world is not our home. You have an individual divine calling. Everyone does. And again, I know, as I say this and you hear me say this, you're going to sit here and say, okay, well, that's cool, but I can't connect with that personally. Okay. Or maybe you can. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know where you're at with things. But I'll tell you something. I know exactly what it's like to hear somebody say that and say, okay, well, that's good. I really do believe that I have a calling. It's one thing to believe it, but then when you actually know what your calling is, then you're just like, aha, now I know. It's one thing to hear somebody say it and to believe it. But when your belief becomes a reality, that's when you're just like, whoa, And That's a pretty cool thing. So you do have a calling out there. You do. You were created for a specific calling, and everything about you, everything. That's why you should never, ever, ever be ashamed of, you know, the way you look or anything, because, you were everything about you. I'm not saying your fallen nature. Your fallen nature, that's why God had to die, so he can come in and, kind of clean you out. But I'm talking about you, the real you, you as a person. I mean, everything about you is perfect. Maybe not to him or to her or whoever, or maybe not even to you, but to God. God made you perfectly in his image, and you were created for a divine reason. A divine reason. You really, really were. So, and you're not going to find that in religion. You're not going to find that in some on some funny website that tells you your stupid zodiac sign, or what this number means, or that numerology, or some psychic, some weird psychic playing with some crystal ball or some tarot card or whatever. You're not going to find that in a Ouija board, or you're not going to sit there and find that talking to some, so you're not going to find that in a fortune cookie. You're not going to find it. I mean, there's a God up there, and he knows everything about you, and he has a specific calling assignment on your life, like he does mine. Everyone has it. So I don't need to go on about that, but you're 16 and a half, and I know what it's like to be 16 and a half. It could be, so I don't know, some people handle it differently. Maybe you're just laid back and kind of go with the flow. I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe you're in between. But regardless, you have a specific calling. You do. Trust me, you do. So as I go back and watch this video, I probably repeated that like 50 million times, but I don't know. I just felt like I needed to, because this world is so dark, and people really have a tough time feeling like they really count for something in this world, Like, a lot of times you're surrounded by people, I'm not even saying this is your situation. I'm not even saying that it's my situation personally. I'm just saying in general, we live in a world where we're made to feel like we don't add up. Even if it's just all in our mind. Well, if it's in our mind, we got it from somewhere. But don't listen to that, because you mean something. You mean something. You mean more than you'll ever, ever, ever know. Trust me, you are so valuable, it's disgusting. You really, really are. You might not feel that way, but you really, really, really are very, 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 very loved, and very, 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 very valued by God. And God has a direct personal assignment just for you, custom made. That's what you call life. That's your reason for living. Not, again, enjoy life. Enjoy it. But just know that you have a specific purpose, calling, whatever, on your life. So that's what 19 means. It just means, I'll read it again. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. So in other words, I just read it in the easier Bible. I'll read that again for you. Hang on. Which is verse 19, Matthew chapter 6, verse 19. Don't store up treasures here on earth, where they can be eaten by moths and get rusty, and where thieves break in and steal. Okay, like I said, just don't store up your treasures on earth. Fulfill your calling, do what God, do what you're supposed to do, and you will store up treasures in heaven. Verse 20. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. So it's pretty much, let me see. Verse 20, let me see. Store your treasures in heaven, where they will never become moth eaten or rusty, and where they will be safe from thieves.